Before you satisfies, Miss Hartley, where exactly were you at 3:47 a.m. last Tuesday? The federal agent's question hung in the air like a guillotine blade. I gripped the edge of my desk so hard my knuckles went white. I was home, sleeping, alone. Yes, alone. I'm divorced. My daughter's at college. Why are you? Because at 3:47 a.m. last Tuesday, someone using your exact credentials transferred $233 million into a ghost account. He slapped a folder onto my desk. Paper spilled out. Transaction logs. Authorization codes. My employee ID number highlighted in yellow on every single page. And that someone, according to every piece of digital evidence we have, was you. My coffee mug slipped from my fingers. It shattered against the floor, brown liquid spreading across the tiles like a bloodstain. That's impossible. Is it? He stepped closer. Because I've been doing this for 20 years, Miss Hartley, and I've never seen a cleaner trail. Whoever moved that money wanted us to find you. Or, he paused, letting the silence stretch. You just made the sloppiest mistake of your criminal career. Through my glass office walls, I watched my entire life crumble in real time. Janet from accounting, the woman I'd covered for during her chemo treatments, quickly looked away. Mike from loans pretended to study his computer screen. 15 years. 15 years of birthday cakes and baby showers, and staying late to help with audits. And now they were all looking at me like I was already wearing handcuffs. I didn't do this. Then who did? Before I could answer, the elevator dinged. And somehow, impossibly, everything got worse. Daniel Mercer stepped onto the floor. CEO of Lakewood Community Bank. The man who signed my paychecks. The man who, 3 months ago, had personally handed me an award for exemplary service to community banking. Charcoal suit. Silver cufflinks. A smile so polished you could see your reflection in it. Mr. Webb. Daniel's handshake radiated warmth. I wasn't informed you'd. I don't inform. I arrive. The agent, Webb, didn't smile back. Your compliance manager and I were just discussing how $250 million in public grant money ended up in financial limbo. Daniel's eyes met mine, and in that split second, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Not surprise, not confusion, something else. Something that looked almost like calculation. Elena is one of our most trusted employees, Daniel said smoothly. I'm certain there's been some kind of technical. There's no technical error. Webb pulled out a black notebook. There's a crime. The only question is whether Ms. Hartley acted alone or whether she had help from someone higher up the food chain. Daniel's smile didn't waver, but his eyes went flat and cold. That's quite an accusation, Mr. Webb. It's not an accusation. Not yet. Webb turned back to me. Don't leave town, Miss Hartley. And if I were you, I'd start thinking very carefully about who your friends really are. He walked out. The silence he left behind was deafening. Daniel didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there, watching me through the glass like a scientist studying a particularly interesting specimen. Then he pulled out his phone, typed something, and left without a word. My phone buzzed 3 seconds later. My office. 5 minutes. Tell no one. The walk to the executive floor felt like a death march. I could feel every pair of eyes tracking my movement. The whispers followed me like shadows. By the time I reached Daniel's corner office, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the frozen lake, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely turn the doorknob. He was standing at the window, back to me. He didn't turn around. Close the door. I did. Lock it. My heart stopped. What? Lock. The door. Elena. I turned the lock. The click sounded like the closing of a trap. Do you know why I hired you 15 years ago? His voice was eerily calm. It wasn't your resume. It wasn't your references. It was your face. My face. You have an honest face. The kind of face people trust without thinking. He finally turned. The afternoon light caught his features, casting half his face in shadow. It's your greatest asset. And right now, it's the only thing keeping you out of prison. Daniel, I don't understand what's happening. I didn't move that money. Someone used my. I know you didn't move it. The words hit me like a physical blow. You know. Of course I know. He walked toward me slowly, deliberately, like a predator circling prey. I know exactly what happened to that money. I know exactly whose fingers were really on the keyboard. And I know exactly why they chose you to take the fall. My back hit the locked door. He stopped inches away, close enough that I could smell his cologne, close enough to see the tiny scar above his left eyebrow, close enough to see that beneath all that polish and power, something was very, very wrong. Then tell me, I whispered. Tell me who did this to me. He leaned in. His breath was warm against my ear. I can't. What do you mean you can't? Because if I tell you, they'll kill us both. He pulled back, and for one fraction of a second, his mask cracked. I saw fear. Real fear. The kind of fear that powerful men aren't supposed to feel. So here's what's going to happen, Elena. You're going to keep your mouth shut. You're going to cooperate with every investigation. And you're going to trust me to fix this. Trust you? You're asking me to. I'm not asking. The coldness in his voice turned my blood to ice. The board meets in 3 days, he continued. Until then, you say nothing. You admit nothing. You let the town think whatever they want to think. And when this is over, when I've cleaned up this mess, you'll still have a career, a reputation, a life. And if I don't, if I go to Webb right now and tell him everything you just said. Daniel smiled, but it wasn't the warm, camera-ready smile he wore in public. This smile was something else entirely. Then I'll show him the security footage of you entering the building at 3:30 a.m. last Tuesday. He pulled out his phone, turned the screen toward me. I saw myself, or someone who looked exactly like me, swiping through the lobby turnstile. Footage that doesn't exist in any official record. Footage that would destroy you in a heartbeat. That's not me. That's not possible. I was home. Can you prove it? I couldn't. We both knew I couldn't. What do you want from me? My voice cracked. Right now? I want you to walk out of this office looking calm. I want you to go back to your desk and pretend this conversation never happened. And I want you to wait. Wait for what? He opened the door for me, his hand brushing against mine as I passed. The touch sent an electric shock through my system, revulsion and something else I didn't want to name. Wait for me to decide if you're worth saving. I don't remember walking back to my desk. Don't remember sitting down. Don't remember the hours passing. But I remember the exact moment everything changed. 2:33 p.m. The clock on my computer screen flickered, and suddenly I wasn't in my office anymore. I was standing in Daniel's doorway. But different. Everything was different. No. My voice, but stronger. Fiercer. We're returning every cent. Today. Right now. I don't care what the board wants. I don't care what threats they've made. This ends now. And Daniel, this other Daniel, looked up at me from his desk. But instead of cold calculation, I saw relief. Overwhelming, desperate relief. Thank God, he whispered. Thank God someone finally said it. You could have said it yourself. I know. I was too afraid. He stood, walked toward me, took my hands in his. But you're not afraid, are you, Elena? You've never been afraid of doing the right thing. I'm terrified, the other me admitted. But I'm more terrified of becoming someone I can't live with. He smiled. A real smile, soft and broken and beautiful. Then let's burn it all down together. The vision shattered. I gasped, gripping my desk as the real world slammed back into focus. My computer clock still read 2:33 p.m. Not a second had passed. But everything had changed. Because now I knew the truth. Somewhere, in some other version of this story, I had made a different choice. A braver choice. And in that version, Daniel Mercer wasn't my enemy. He was something else entirely. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. The money moves again in 72 hours. They're going to pin everything on you before the board meeting. Your only ally is the man who just threatened you. Choose wisely, Elena. I stared at the message until the words blurred. Then I looked through my glass walls at Daniel's distant figure, still standing at his window, still watching the frozen lake. And I made a decision that would either save me or destroy me. I typed back, "Who are you?" The response came instantly. "Someone who's seen how this ends." Both versions. The one where you stay silent and lose everything, and the one where you fight back and lose even more. Which ending do you want? My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Before I could answer, my office phone rang. The caller ID made my stomach drop. It was my daughter, and she was crying. "Mom, please tell me it's not true." My daughter's voice cracked through the phone like shattering glass. I pressed the receiver harder against my ear, as if I could somehow reach through and hold her. "Sophie, sweetheart, I need you to calm down and tell me. It's everywhere. Someone sent it to my roommate. It's on the local news website. They're saying you stole millions of dollars. They're saying you might go to prison." A sob broke through. My professor asked me if I was related to that woman from Lakewood. In front of the entire lecture hall. My heart crumbled into dust. "Listen to me carefully." I kept my voice steady even as my world collapsed. "I didn't steal anything. Someone is framing me. I'm going to fix this, but I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" Silence. Then, smaller than I'd ever heard her. "Are you sure?" "Because the news showed documents, Mom. They showed your signature." "Sophie, I have to go." My roommate's staring at me. She sniffled. "I love you, but I don't. I don't know what to believe anymore." The line went dead. I sat there, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the dial tone like it was a funeral dirge. Through my glass walls, I could see coworkers packing up for the day, carefully avoiding eye contact as they passed. My phone buzzed. Another unknown message. "Now you understand what you're really fighting for. It's not the money. It's not your job. It's everything they can take from you that can't be measured in dollars." I typed back with shaking fingers. "Who are you?" "Someone who chose wrong the first time. Don't make my mistake." Before I could respond, a shadow fell across my desk. Daniel stood in my doorway. "We need to talk. I think we've talked enough for one day." "Elena." His voice dropped. They moved up the timeline. "The board's emergency session is tomorrow morning, not Friday. And they've already drafted a public statement." My blood went cold. "What kind of statement?" "The kind with your name in it. The kind that uses words like criminal referral and terminated for cause." He stepped closer. "I'm trying to buy you time, but they're not listening to me anymore. Why should I believe anything you say? 3 hours ago, you showed me fake security footage and threatened to destroy me. That footage isn't fake. It's not me. I know it's not you." He ran a hand through his perfectly styled hair, and for the first time, I saw cracks in his armor. That's what terrifies me. Someone went to extraordinary lengths to create it. Someone with resources. Someone who knew exactly where every camera was positioned and exactly how to manipulate the timestamps. He met my eyes. Someone on the board. The weight of his words pressed down on my chest. "Which one?" "I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out." He glanced at the empty hallway. "Meet me tonight. 9 o'clock. The old boathouse on Miller's Point." "And Elena." His hand brushed mine, barely a touch, but it sent electricity through my veins. "Don't trust anyone else. Not the auditor. Not your coworkers. Not even your family. The people behind this are watching everything." He was gone before I could respond. The boathouse was dark when I arrived. Old money architecture hidden behind overgrown willows. The kind of place where Lakewood's founding families used to throw parties that never made the society pages. Now it sat abandoned, wood rotting, windows clouded with age. I shouldn't have come. Every instinct screamed that this was a trap, but Sophie's broken voice echoed in my ears. The way she'd said, "that woman from Lakewood," like I was already a stranger, like I'd already become someone she didn't recognize. I pushed open the door. Daniel stood by the window, silhouetted against the moonlit lake. He didn't turn around. "You came." Against my better judgment. I stayed near the exit. "Start talking. And this time, try the truth." "The truth." He laughed bitterly. "The truth is that I've been the CEO of Lakewood Community Bank for 7 years, and for 6 of those years, I've been nothing but a puppet. The board, specifically Harrison Wells, has been using this bank to launder money through municipal contracts. The harbor grant was supposed to be their biggest payday yet." Harrison Wells? The man who donated the new children's wing to the hospital. The same man who has 3 offshore accounts and a brother-in-law in the state comptroller's office. Daniel finally turned. In the dim light, he looked haunted. When the grant money came through, Harrison wanted to siphon off $40 million for administrative fees. I refused. So he found another way. And he found someone to blame. Me. You were perfect. Spotless record. Trusted face. The compliance manager who should have caught it. His voice cracked. "I didn't know they were going to frame you, Elena. I swear to God. I thought they'd use a shell company, some faceless entity. When I saw your name on those transfers, you threw me to the wolves anyway." I panicked. He crossed the room in 3 strides, stopping inches from me. "I've spent 7 years walking a tightrope over hell. 7 years keeping my family safe by doing exactly what Harrison wanted. And then you were there, and everything was falling apart, and I made the worst decision of my life." "Your family?" His jaw tightened. "My mother lives in Wells-funded senior care. My sister works at the hospital he bankrolls. Harrison made it very clear what happens to people I love if I step out of line." I searched his face for deception and found only exhaustion. "So what changed? Why tell me now?" "Because tomorrow morning, they're going to destroy you publicly. And I can't." He stopped, swallowed hard. "I can't watch it happen. I can't be that person anymore." My vision flickered. Not now. Not again. But the world dissolved anyway. Same boathouse. Same moonlight. Different everything. Daniel held my face in his hands, gentle as prayer. "I didn't let them blame you," he whispered. "The moment Harrison suggested it, I walked into that boardroom and resigned. Told them it was me. All of it. Daniel, your family. I found another way to protect them. A way that didn't require sacrificing you." His thumb traced my cheekbone. "I couldn't live with myself otherwise. Not after everything. Everything. After realizing that you were the first person in 7 years who made me want to be brave." The vision shattered. I gasped, stumbling backward. 2:33. Even at night, somehow, it was always 2:33 when the other world bled through. "Elena." Daniel caught my arm, steadying me. "What just happened?" "You went completely pale." I looked up at him. This version. The one who hadn't chosen courage. The one who was only now finding it. "Tell me something," I said quietly. "In another life, if you could do it all over, would you have protected me from the beginning?" His brow furrowed. "What kind of question is that?" "The only one that matters." He stared at me for a long moment. Then, so softly I almost missed it. "Yes. God help me, yes." Outside, headlights cut through the darkness. 3 cars. Moving fast. My phone buzzed. "They know. Run." Daniel grabbed my hand. "Back door. Now." We ran into the night. And somewhere behind us, I heard Harrison Wells' voice carrying across the water. "Find them. Both of them. You can't hide forever, Miss Hartley." Marcus Webb's voice echoed through Rosie's cafe like a death knell. I froze, coffee cup halfway to my lips, as he slid into the booth across from me. "I'm not hiding. I'm having breakfast." "At 6 a.m.? In a back booth? Wearing sunglasses indoors. He smiled without warmth. You're hiding. And I understand why. The whole town wants your head on a pike. Through the window, I could see the early morning protesters already gathering outside the bank. Handmade signs. Angry faces. Mrs. Patterson was back, her grandson beside her now, both of them wearing matching Justice for Lakewood t-shirts. I didn't take their money. Then who did? I thought about Daniel. About the boathouse. About the 3 black SUVs that had chased us through the back roads until we'd lost them near the old mill. About the way his hand had gripped mine in the darkness. Desperate, terrified, real. I'm still figuring that out. Webb leaned forward. Let me help you figure it out faster. Harrison Wells called my office this morning. Demanded I make an arrest within 48 hours or he'll go to the media with irrefutable evidence of your guilt. My stomach dropped. What evidence? He wouldn't say, but he sounded confident. Webb studied me with those cold investigator eyes. Here's the thing, Miss Hartley. I've been doing this job for 23 years. I've seen a lot of guilty people, and I've seen a lot of innocent people who got crushed because they didn't know how to play the game. He slid a business card across the table. You have my number. When you're ready to tell me what's really going on, who's really behind this, call me. Before it's too late. He stood to leave, then paused. One more thing. Daniel Mercer's car was spotted leaving Miller's Point last night. Same time as yours. Whatever game you two are playing together, be careful. Men like him don't protect anyone but themselves. The bell above the door chimed as he left. Rosie appeared with the coffee pot, refilling my cup without asking. Her husband Frank looked up from his newspaper at the counter. That man, Frank announced to no one in particular, asks too many questions and never orders anything. Bad for business. Frank, hush. Rosie gave me a sympathetic look. You okay, honey? I've been better. I've known you since you were Sophie's age, coming in here after school for milkshakes. She squeezed my shoulder. You didn't steal anything. Anyone with half a brain can see that. Tears burned the corners of my eyes. Thank you, Rosie. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when you prove those vultures wrong. The bank was a war zone of whispers when I arrived. I kept my head down, navigating toward my office through a gauntlet of turned backs and hushed conversations. Someone had taped a newspaper article to my door. The headline screamed, "Local bank employee suspected in grant fraud." I tore it down with shaking hands. Miss Hartley, a young woman, stood behind me. Intern badge. Couldn't have been more than 22. She looked terrified. Yes. There's someone in the lobby. An elderly man. He's been asking for you specifically. She lowered her voice. He's crying. My heart clenched. Send him to conference room B. I'll be right there. The man waiting for me was 80 if he was a day. Liver-spotted hands trembled around a crumpled letter. When he looked up, I recognized him. George Hendricks, retired postal worker, regular at the bank for decades. Mr. Hendricks? What's wrong? They froze my account. His voice wavered. Because of the investigation. They said all accounts connected to the grant project are under review. My pension was supposed to deposit yesterday. My heart medication costs $400. I have $17 in my wallet. He broke down sobbing. I'm going to die because of this. I'm going to die because someone stole money I never even touched. I knelt beside him, taking his frail hands in mine. That's not going to happen. I promise. Let me see what I can do. But I already knew there was nothing I could do. Not officially. Not anymore. I settled Mr. Hendricks in the break room with tea and reassurances I couldn't keep, then stormed toward the executive floor. Daniel's office door was closed. I didn't knock. We need to talk. He looked up from his computer, startled. Elena, you can't just. There's an 80-year-old man downstairs who can't afford his heart medication because the board froze accounts connected to the investigation. I slammed my hands on his desk. He had nothing to do with this. Nothing. And now he might die because Harrison Wells is covering his tracks. Daniel's jaw tightened. I know. I've been getting calls all morning. It's not just Hendricks. 12 families have had accounts frozen. 3 small businesses. The bakery on Main Street might have to close. Then do something. I'm trying. He stood abruptly, chair spinning behind him. You think I have any power here? Harrison controls the board. The board controls the bank. I'm just the smiling face they put on the letterhead. Then stop smiling and start fighting. We stood there, breathing hard, the air between us charged with fury and something else. Something that had been building since the boathouse. Since the moment he'd grabbed my hand and run. Fine. He grabbed his jacket. Come with me. Where are we going? To do something stupid. 20 minutes later, I watched Daniel Mercer walk into Lakewood Pharmacy and pay $400 in cash for George Hendricks' heart medication. Don't say anything, he muttered when he came back to the car. I wasn't going to. You were thinking something. I was thinking that was unexpected. He pulled out his phone, dialed a number. Patricia? It's Daniel. I need you to quietly process an emergency account release for George Hendricks. Authorization code 774. Yes, I know it's against protocol. Do it anyway. And Patricia? This conversation never happened. He hung up, started the car, didn't look at me. That's going to get you in trouble, I said quietly. I'm already in trouble. More trouble than... Probably. He finally glanced over. Harrison's going to find out. He monitors everything. This is going to cost me. Then why do it? The silence stretched for blocks. Because you were right, he finally said. I've spent 7 years smiling while people got hurt, telling myself it was necessary, that I was protecting my family. But my family wouldn't recognize the man I've become. His hands tightened on the steering wheel. My mother didn't raise a coward. And somewhere along the way, I forgot that. My vision flickered. Same car. Same sunlight. Different weight in the air. You did it, the other me said, wonder in her voice. You actually resigned. In front of everyone. Should have done it years ago. The other Daniel smiled. Really smiled. Without masks or calculations. You know what's funny? I thought losing everything would feel like dying. But it feels like breathing for the first time. What happens now? Now. He reached over, tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. Now we figure out how to rebuild. Together. If you'll have me. Daniel. I know I don't deserve it. After everything. But I'm asking anyway. The clock on the dashboard read 2:33. The vision dissolved. Elena. Daniel was staring at me, concern creasing his forehead. You disappeared again. You keep doing that. It's nothing. It's not nothing. You look like you've seen a ghost. I almost laughed. A ghost was exactly what I'd seen. The ghost of a better choice. A braver path. A version of us that had found its way to something real. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. He's starting to change. But not fast enough. Tomorrow's board meeting will destroy you both unless you find the evidence tonight. Check the server room. Backup drive C7. Harrison's mistake. I showed Daniel the message. His face went pale. The server room has 24-hour security. Cameras everywhere. If we get caught, then we don't get caught. He stared at me like I'd lost my mind. Maybe I had. You're actually serious. I'm about to lose my daughter, my reputation, and my freedom for something I didn't do. Yes, Daniel. I'm serious. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, I can get us in. There's a maintenance window at midnight. 20 minutes where the cameras loop. How do you know that? His smile was grim. Because Harrison told me. Back when he trusted me. He held out his hand. I took it. Partners, he asked. Until we burn it all down. Somewhere across town, Harrison Wells was planning our destruction. He had no idea we were planning his. Someone's already been here. Daniel's whisper cut through the darkness of the server room. I followed his flashlight beam to the open cabinet. The one that should have held backup drive C7. Empty. Wires dangling like severed arteries. No. I pushed past him, running my hands along the vacant shelf as if the drive might materialize through sheer desperation. No, no, no. It was supposed to be here. The message said. The message was wrong. Or we were set up. Daniel grabbed my arm. We need to leave. Now. The camera loop ends in 6 minutes. I'm not leaving empty-handed. Elena. A door slammed somewhere above us. We both froze. Footsteps. Heavy. Deliberate. Getting closer. Daniel killed the flashlight and pulled me behind a server rack. His body pressed against mine in the darkness, his breath hot against my ear. Don't move, he mouthed. The footsteps stopped right outside the server room door. My heart hammered so loud I was certain whoever stood on the other side could hear it. Daniel's hand found mine, squeezing tight. I squeezed back. A phone rang, muffled, distant. The footsteps retreated. We waited 60 agonizing seconds before Daniel exhaled. Service elevator. East corridor. Go. We ran. The lakeside parking lot was empty except for Daniel's car. We sat in silence, watching the moon ripple across the black water, both of us too shaken to speak. Finally, I broke. Tell me everything. No more half-truths. No more protecting me from information. I need to know exactly what we're fighting. Daniel stared at the lake for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was hollow. 3 years ago, Harrison came to me with a proposal. The bank was struggling. Small town, shrinking population, bigger banks eating our market share. He said he had investors. Offshore money looking for legitimate channels. He laughed bitterly. I knew what that meant. I knew it was dirty. But I told myself it was temporary. Just until we stabilized. And it wasn't temporary. Nothing with Harrison is ever temporary. He turned to face me. The harbor grant was supposed to be his masterpiece. $233 million in federal money, flowing through accounts he controlled. Skim enough to cover his losses, return the rest, nobody notices. But someone on the board got nervous. Wanted out. Threatened to talk. Who? Margaret Chun. I blinked. Margaret? She's been on the board for 20 years. She's practically a founding member. She's also dying. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. 6 months to live, maybe less. Daniel's voice softened. Dying people get honest. She told Harrison she wouldn't meet her maker with this on her conscience. He needed a distraction. Something big enough to shift focus while he cleaned up loose ends. The pieces clicked into place like a nightmare puzzle. Me. I was the distraction. You were perfect. Trusted. Clean. Nobody would believe you'd steal, which meant everyone would be focused on proving you guilty or innocent, while Harrison moved money and silenced Margaret. He reached for my hand. I didn't know until it was too late. I swear to God, Elena, by the time I realized what he'd done, your name was already everywhere. I pulled my hand back. But you knew before the press conference. You knew before you threw me to the wolves. Yes. Then why? Why didn't you warn me? Why didn't you? Because he has my mother. The words hung in the air like a guillotine. What? My mother's memory care facility. Harrison owns the parent company. 3 days before the story broke, he visited her. Sat with her for an hour. Then he called me and described exactly what she was wearing, what she ate for lunch, how she smiled when he told her about my childhood. Daniel's voice cracked. He said if I interfered, she'd have an accident. A fall. A medication error. Something tragic but untraceable. I felt the anger drain out of me, replaced by something heavier. Understanding. Daniel, I've been a coward. Tears glistened in his eyes. I chose my mother over you. I chose fear over integrity. And I hate myself for it every single minute of every single day. I should have walked away. Every rational part of my brain screamed that this man had betrayed me, used me, watched me burn while he protected his own. But I understood. God help me, I understood. What about now? I asked quietly. Harrison still has that leverage. What's changed? I have. He met my eyes. Watching you fight. Watching you refuse to surrender. It made me realize that surviving isn't living. And I'd rather die on my feet than keep crawling on my knees. The moonlight caught his face, and for a moment, I saw both versions of him superimposed. The coward he'd been and the man he was trying to become. There's something else, he continued. Something I took before they could destroy it. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a flash drive. This isn't C7. This is better. It's Harrison's private correspondence. Emails. Wire transfer confirmations. Instructions to frame you. With timestamps and account numbers. He placed it in my palm. It's everything. How did you get this? Harrison's assistant. Patricia. She's been secretly documenting his crimes for 2 years, waiting for someone brave enough to use the evidence. A ghost of a smile crossed his face. When I processed George Hendrick's account release, she knew I'd finally chosen a side. I stared at the drive. Such a small thing. Such enormous power. Why didn't you tell me sooner? Because I wasn't sure I could go through with it. Until tonight. Until I watched you ready to tear apart a server room with your bare hands rather than give up. He cupped my face in his hands. You make me want to be the man I should have been all along. My vision flickered. Same lake. Same moonlight. Same hands on my face. I didn't let them blame you, the other Daniel whispered. Not there. Not in that version. What made the difference? You did. You stood in my office on day 1 and refused to be a victim. And something in me woke up. Something I thought Harrison had killed a long time ago. What happens now? Now we go public. Together. Whatever comes. Even if it destroys you. Being destroyed by the truth is better than surviving on lies. The clock in his car clicked to 2:33. The vision dissolved, but this time I didn't gasp. I didn't stumble. Because for the first time, both timelines were converging. Elena, Daniel's real hand still held my face. You went somewhere again. Where do you go? Somewhere you make better choices. I smiled through the tears I hadn't realized were falling. Somewhere we both do. I want that. I want to make better choices here. Now. With you. He kissed me. Soft. Careful. A question more than a statement. I kissed him back. The answer. When we finally pulled apart, my phone was buzzing frantically. 12 messages. All from the same unknown number. Harrison knows about Patricia. He's moving the money tonight. New destination. Offshore. Untraceable. You have until 6 a.m. to stop him. Margaret Chun is ready to talk. Federal auditor is compromised. Board meeting moved to 7 a.m. They're coming for you both. Harbor Pier. Loading Dock 7. Evidence of everything. This is your only chance. Don't waste it. P.S. The other timeline is watching. Make us proud. I showed Daniel the messages. His face hardened with resolve. Then let's end this. He started the car. We had 6 hours to save everything, or lose it all. And somewhere in another version of this story, I felt her watching. Hoping. Believing. I wouldn't let her down. You're either incredibly brave or completely insane. Margaret Chin's voice was thin as paper, but her eyes burned with decades of boardroom battles. She sat propped against pillows in her private hospital room, oxygen tube trailing across her pale face, monitors beeping a steady countdown to an ending she'd already accepted. Maybe both, I admitted. But I'm tired of running. Running. She laughed, which turned into a cough. I've been running from Harrison Wells for 15 years. Look where it got me. Daniel stepped forward from the doorway. Margaret, we need your testimony. On record. Before the board meeting. I know what you need. She gestured weakly toward a folder on her bedside table. I've been preparing for this moment longer than you know. Every transaction I flagged. Every suspicious transfer I documented. Every time Harrison threatened me into silence. Her gaze sharpened. It's all there. Signed, notarized, and ready to burn his empire to the ground. I picked up the folder. It was thick, heavy with secrets. Why now? I asked. Why not come forward years ago? Because I was afraid. Because I had grandchildren. Because Harrison made it very clear what happened to people who crossed him. She closed her eyes. But the thing about dying is that it clarifies everything. Fear becomes irrelevant when you're already looking at the end. Margaret, I watched you on the news, Elena. She opened her eyes again. I watched them tear you apart. Call you a thief. A criminal. And I knew. I knew it was my silence that put you there. My cowardice. A tear slipped down her weathered cheek. Let me make it right. Let me do one good thing before I go. I took her hand. Fragile as bird bones. You're doing it now? That's what matters. There's something else. Her grip tightened with surprising strength. The federal auditor. Marcus Webb. Harrison got to him 2 days ago. 50,000 in an offshore account. Webb's supposed to recommend criminal charges against you at the board meeting. Make you the official scapegoat before anyone can investigate further. My stomach dropped. Webb's compromised? Everyone's compromised, dear. That's how Harrison operates. He doesn't just buy silence, he buys complicity. She pulled me closer. But there's one person he couldn't buy. One person who's been feeding you information since this started. The anonymous messages. You know who's sending them. Margaret smiled. Patricia isn't the only assistant who learned to document everything. Harrison's wife has been watching, waiting, gathering ammunition for a divorce that will make headlines. His wife, Evelyn Wells, has spent 30 years smiling for cameras while her husband destroyed lives. She's done smiling. Margaret pressed a business card into my palm. Call her. She's expecting you. And Elena. Yes. When you walk into that boardroom tomorrow, don't just expose Harrison. Expose the whole system. Every board member who looked away. Every regulator who took payments. Every comfortable person who chose convenience over conscience. Her eyes blazed with dying fire. Burn it all down. Promise me. I promise. The drive to the harbor was silent. Daniel gripped the steering wheel, knuckles white, jaw clenched. I clutched Margaret's folder against my chest like a shield. Webb's compromised, I finally said. The one person I thought might actually be on the side of truth. Are you surprised? Disappointed. There's a difference. Is there? He glanced over. In my experience, disappointment is just surprise wearing comfortable shoes. Despite everything, I almost smiled. That's either profound or ridiculous. Probably both. He pulled into the harbor parking lot. Loading dock 7 loomed ahead, dark and silent. Elena, before we do this, there's something I need to say. Can it wait? No. He stopped the car, but didn't cut the engine. I've spent 7 years being the person Harrison needed me to be. Compliant. Controllable. A puppet with a nice suit and a corner office. He turned to face me fully. But these past few days, being with you, fighting with you, I remembered who I used to be. Who I wanted to become before I sold my soul for security. Daniel, let me finish. He took my hand. Whatever happens in that boardroom, I want you to know that you changed something in me. Something I thought was dead. And even if this all falls apart, even if we both end up destroyed, I won't regret choosing to stand with you. That's a very dramatic speech for a man who might be about to commit career suicide. I prefer to think of it as career resurrection. He smiled. That real smile, the one without masks. Besides, I hear unemployment gives you time to work on yourself. I laughed. Actually laughed. It felt foreign after days of fear. You're ridiculous. And you're extraordinary. He leaned closer. Now let's go find whatever evidence Evelyn Wells left for us and end this nightmare. Loading dock 7 smelled like fish and diesel fuel. We picked our way through stacked crates and rusted equipment, flashlight beams cutting through the darkness. The anonymous message had said evidence would be waiting, but the dock appeared abandoned. Maybe we're too late, Daniel muttered. Or maybe we're exactly on time. A figure stepped out of the shadows. Elegant, even in a simple coat and scarf. Evelyn Wells looked like she'd walked off the pages of a society magazine. Perfectly styled gray hair, diamond studs glinting in the dim light, posture that screamed old money and older secrets. Mrs. Wells. I stopped short. The messages were from you? Some of them. Patricia sent the early ones. We've been coordinating for months. She pulled a briefcase from behind a crate. Everything you need is in here. Account numbers, wire transfers, recorded phone calls, video from Harrison's private study showing him explicitly ordering your termination, both professional and otherwise. Otherwise, her smile was ice. My husband doesn't like loose ends. He had a contingency plan if the frame job didn't work quickly enough. She met my eyes. That plan involved making your daughter's campus look like an unsafe place for young women walking alone at night. The blood drained from my face. Sophie, he was going to do whatever it took. But not anymore. Evelyn handed me the briefcase. I've spent 3 decades being the perfect politician's wife, smiling through humiliations, pretending not to notice the affairs, the bribes, the threats. But threatening a child. Her voice hardened to steel. That was the line he never should have crossed. Daniel stepped forward. Why help us? You could have taken this to the FBI yourself and spend years in legal battles while Harrison's lawyers delay and obfuscate. No. She pulled car keys from her pocket. I'm leaving tonight. New identity. New country. By the time Harrison realizes I'm gone, you'll have already destroyed him. You're running? I'm surviving. There's a difference. She started toward the dock's edge, where a small boat waited. One more thing. The board meeting tomorrow. Harrison doesn't know you have any of this. He thinks he's won. He's planning to announce your arrest live, with cameras rolling. Maximum humiliation. Then I'll give him a show he'll never forget. Evelyn paused at the boat's edge. I believe you will. She looked back one final time. Make him pay, Elena. For all of us. She disappeared into the darkness. My vision flickered. Same dock. Same night. Different ending. The other Elena stood alone, watching the water. No briefcase. No evidence. No hope. I gave up, she whispered to no one. I let them win. And now Sophie won't even take my calls. Daniel's voice, distant. It didn't have to be this way. But it is. Because I was too afraid. The clock on Daniel's phone read 2:33. The vision dissolved. I clutched the briefcase tighter. Elena. Daniel touched my shoulder. You okay? I just saw what happens if we fail. I met his eyes. I won't let that future exist. Not for Sophie. Not for Margaret. Not for any of the people Harrison has destroyed. Then let's make sure he's the headline tomorrow. Not you. We walked back to the car together. 6 hours until the board meeting. 6 hours until everything changed. And somewhere in another timeline, I felt her. The version of me who had surrendered, watching with desperate hope. Don't give up, she seemed to whisper. Please, don't become me. I wouldn't. Not now. Not ever. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for gathering on such short notice. Harrison Wells stood at the head of the boardroom table like a king surveying his kingdom. Silver hair perfectly coiffed. Navy suit worth more than most people's cars. A smile that had charmed governors and destroyed careers with equal ease. The room was packed. Board members in their leather chairs. Local reporters crowded against the back wall. Marcus Webb standing by the window, deliberately avoiding my eyes. And in the front row, a camera crew from the regional news station, red lights blinking, broadcasting everything live. As you know, Our community has been rocked by allegations of financial misconduct. Harrison's voice dripped with practiced sorrow. Today, I'm here to provide closure, to name the individual responsible and assure Lakewood that justice will be served. He gestured toward the door. Security, please escort Ms. Hartley to the front. 2 guards flanked me. I didn't resist. I walked forward with my head high, the briefcase in my hand, Margaret's folder tucked inside my jacket. The whispers followed me like a wave. That's her. The thief. Can you believe she showed her face? Harrison's smile widened as I reached the front of the room. Elena Hartley. 15 years of service. Exemplary record. And yet, he clicked a remote, and my employee photo appeared on the screen behind him. Evidence has conclusively shown that Ms. Hartley orchestrated the theft of $233 million in federal grant money. Agent Webb, Marcus Webb stepped forward, not meeting my eyes. Based on my investigation, I am prepared to recommend immediate criminal charges against. Before you do that, I interrupted, my voice cutting through the room like a blade. I have something to share. Harrison's smile flickered. Ms. Hartley, this is not the time for. Actually, it's exactly the time. I opened the briefcase. You want to talk about evidence? Let's talk about evidence. I pulled out the first folder and handed it to the nearest reporter. Bank transfer records showing $47 million moved to offshore accounts controlled by Wells Financial Holdings. Harrison Wells, sole proprietor. The reporter's eyes went wide. I pulled out the second folder. Emails between Harrison Wells and 3 board members explicitly discussing how to frame a disposable employee for the grant discrepancy. My name is highlighted in yellow. The room erupted in murmurs. I pulled out my phone. Recorded phone calls in which Harrison Wells threatens his own wife, instructs his assistant to destroy documents, and discusses, and I quote, making sure the Hartley woman takes the fall before anyone looks too closely. I hit play. Harrison's voice filled the boardroom. I don't care how you do it. Plant the evidence, alter the timestamps, whatever it takes. By the time the feds figure out what happened, she'll be in prison and we'll be in the Caymans. The recording ended. Silence crashed down like a hammer. Harrison's face had gone gray. That's fabricated. Doctored. This woman is clearly desperate too. Is this fabricated too? Daniel stepped forward from the back of the room. Every head turned. My signed statement admitting that I witnessed Harrison Wells order the transfer of grant funds to personal accounts. My testimony that I was coerced into silence through threats against my family. He laid the document on the table. I'm done being your puppet, Harrison. I'm done watching innocent people burn for your crimes. Daniel, you ungrateful. And this, a new voice. We all turned to see Patricia, Harrison's assistant, walking through the door with a laptop. 7 years of documented financial crimes. Every account, every transfer, every bribe. She looked at her former boss with cold satisfaction. You should have been nicer to the people who made your coffee, Mr. Wells. Harrison lunged for the laptop. Security grabbed him. Get your hands off me. Do you know who I am? I built this bank. I built this entire town. You poisoned this town. I stepped closer, close enough to see the sweat beading on his forehead. You destroyed families, ruined lives, threatened children. My voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried through the entire room. And now everyone knows exactly who you are. Marcus Webb cleared his throat. The room fell silent. Based on new evidence. He glanced at the folders, the recordings, the laptop. I am rescinding my previous recommendation. He pulled out his phone. Federal agents are en route. Harrison Wells, you are under investigation for fraud, embezzlement, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy. Harrison's face twisted with rage. You can't do this. I have connections. I have lawyers. I have nothing. Evelyn's voice crackled through the room's speaker system. A video call projected onto the screen. She sat in what looked like an airport lounge, passport in hand. "You have nothing, Harrison. I've frozen our joint accounts. Contacted every lawyer in the state to create conflicts of interest. And sent copies of everything to the FBI, the state attorney general, and 4 major newspapers." She smiled. "Goodbye, darling. Enjoy prison." The screen went dark. Harrison Wells, the man who had terrorized Lakewood for decades, crumpled into a chair. His empire had collapsed in 15 minutes. The boardroom exploded into chaos. 3 hours later, I stood on the harbor pier, watching the sun set over the water. The federal agents had taken Harrison away in handcuffs. The board members who'd been complicit were voluntarily cooperating with investigators. Marcus Webb had quietly apologized and returned the bribe money before anyone could charge him as an accessory. And my phone hadn't stopped buzzing. Sophie had called 17 times. I'd finally answered on the 18th. "Mom." She was crying again, but differently. "I saw everything. The whole town saw everything. You're a hero." "I'm not a hero, sweetheart. I'm just someone who got tired of being a victim. That's what heroes are, Mom. People who get tired of watching bad things happen." I'd cried then. Really cried. For the first time since this nightmare began. Now I stood in the fading light, finally breathing. Room for one more? Daniel appeared beside me, coat collar turned up against the evening chill. He looked different somehow. Lighter. Like he'd set down a weight he'd been carrying for years. "Depends. Are you here as Daniel Mercer, former CEO? Or someone else?" "I resigned an hour ago. Effective immediately." He smiled. "So I suppose I'm just Daniel now. Unemployed. Possibly unemployable. But free. That sounds terrifying." "It sounds like a beginning." He turned to face me. "I was thinking about what you said. About other timelines. Other versions of this story. You think I'm crazy. I think you see things I can't. And maybe that's exactly what I needed." He took my hand. "In those other versions, the ones where I made better choices, do we end up together?" I thought about the visions. The other Daniel who had protected me from the start. The other Elena who had been brave when it mattered. "Yes," I said softly. "We do. Then maybe we can find our way there. Slowly. Carefully. One better choice at a time. That's not a small ask. After everything that happened." "I know." He squeezed my hand. "But I'm asking anyway." The clock on the harbor tower began to chime. I counted the bells automatically, a habit born from days of watching for 2:33. But when I looked at my phone, it read 6:47. No vision came. For the first time in weeks, the timelines weren't splitting. The other Elena wasn't watching anymore. Because we'd finally converged. "Okay," I heard myself say. "Okay. One better choice at a time." I turned to face him fully. "But you're buying dinner. Forever. As penance." He laughed, free and real and unguarded. "Deal." We walked back toward town together, hand in hand, leaving the harbor and its secrets behind. The grant money was being returned. Harrison Wells was facing justice. Margaret Chin could die in peace. And somewhere, Sophie was telling her roommate that her mother wasn't that woman from Lakewood anymore. She was Elena Hartley, the woman who fought back, the woman who chose truth when lies would have been easier, the woman who finally got to live in the timeline she could stand to look at. And that, I realized, was worth more than $233 million. It was worth everything. 6 months later, the Lakewood Community Financial Clinic opened its doors. Elena Hartley, director. Daniel Mercer, volunteer coordinator. Some stories don't end with riding into the sunset. Some end with building something new from the ashes. Something worth keeping. Something real.